Hello, welcome to In Bed with Books, the podcast where we talk about smutty fantasy, classics, and more. My name is Melissa.
And I'm Bethany. If you'd like to find more of us, you can find us on our website, inbedwithbookspod.com, YouTube for video versions of the podcast, or wherever you pod on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you want to see us outside of the podcast, then head over to Instagram and follow us at In Bed with Books Pod.
Thanks for being here. Let's jump right in.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still cleaning up my desk a little bit too.
Yeah, same.
It's kind of nice because it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so I usually have my desk all messy when we record, and I'm trying to work around it.
Yeah, because you've been working all day, but it's weekend.
Yeah, it's weekend. Tidy up a little bit, start fresh on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have a big mess around my desk while I'm recording.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy what a different vibe that gives my office.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Believe me, this is also my clothes dumping table, so
yeah.
I end up having to
that's when I'm in Houston.
Obviously, yes, I should probably put my clothes away, but I just pile them. I just move them around.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives them that lived in look.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the way it was in Houston for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because my space was so tiny.
Yeah.
Which is the room itself wasn't actually tiny, but it's because it had to double as a bedroom and an office.
Yeah.
So you get what you're yep. Closet and office. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there'd be days when I'm where did this all even come from? Because it was right. I mean, you could see my door. So I would just walk in some days and put stuff there because I needed to clean out my hands.
Yeah.
And then we'd go to record and I was I don't even know what these things are.
Yeah.
What am I here? Yep. How did they get here? Where can I put them now that won't make me scream when we're done recording?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quick announcement before I forget.
Yes.
I want to reread it again so I can read it.
So you got to write up in that copy.
Yes, this is going to be my copy. Yes, it's beautiful orange.
It's beautiful. Is it the same orange as the first book?
No, the first book's like a more red.
Okay.
More of a red. This is more of true orange.
Because I did like the fact that it's a similar color to the first book because we're getting a new love interest. It's a new storyline almost. And
so it can kind of
start back over. Yep.
Yeah. So that's an exciting announcement.
That is actually on my list of books to buy after payday on the 1st. That plus new books for the next season, new books for the book club. It's going to be a very book heavy beginning of the month. Yeah,
I got this at my local bookstore. Mm-hmm. And I also got Fire Endless, which hasn't come out yet, but I pre-ordered. And then I got A Light in the Flame. The paperback is only available on Amazon. So I did pre-order that, but I still need to pre-order Queen of Myth and Monsters, which I want to try and do at Elliott Bay Book Company.
Yes, you should.
What was I going to say? I can't remember.
Well, we've both got Dead Witch Walking.
Yes.
I need to get City of Ashes, I believe is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The Shadowhunter series, which still kills me that I donated all those books.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can restock your collection now.
Yes, I'll restock and I'll get nice new ones. But I also need to remind myself that other people loved those books more than I was loving them at the time. And I just have to remind myself of that. So
yeah, and now you're gonna relove them a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
I want to get I want to sell. Oh, it's my laptop is resting on it. The hardback of A Court of Silver Flames, a used.
Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if there is a feasible way of doing that. I could sell it on our Instagram or something if people wanted a used version of the hardback.
Yeah.
Just because
I think it'd be an option.
I don't need to keep one hardback in that series like hanging around.
Yeah.
Although the next one I'll probably have to get hardback as well.
When it comes out. That's only if you don't wait. I think what I've gotten to the habit of doing is doing an ebook for ones that I know I want to get the pre-order or like get the paperback for newer releases.
Yeah.
Just to make it a little easier on my wallet.
Yeah, that's true.
What was I gonna say? I feel like we had talked about doing like used book resales on our shop and stuff.
I really like that idea.
Yeah.
I've fully committed to book collecting.
You might as well.
I'm like, oh, I want to like start this collection, and I'm just like buying books now. I used to be like, I don't know, like, do I need to carry all this stuff around? But now I'm just like, I'm really owning it now. I'm like,
yeah, like indulge.
Here we are. Yeah. Like, this is more than a hobby at this point. It's an obsession.
A lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. I need to keep it up.
It's not just a phase, Mom.
Yes. Or husband.
You know how
this isn't a phase.
Yeah, exactly. You know how kids used to get the like talk from their parents, or like the joke is always like, because they're like looking all emo or all goth, and they're like, it's not a phase, Mom. That was me with books and my mom, where she'd be like, don't get all of these books, you don't need all of these books. And so part of me didn't want to give up my books before because I was like validating her, like it's just a phase thing. But now I can look at her and I'm like, I got rid of all of those books because you told me it was a phase. And now look at me.
I have to buy them again, Mom.
I have to buy them.
You have to buy them for me again, Mom. No.
Yeah. Well, she bought them for me the first time around.
Yeah, so you'll buy your own this time.
I'll buy my own this time, yeah. A little less guilty, but yeah. So that was my version of it's not just a phase with books. So that's depressing about me.
It's not depressing. It's not depressing at all. It isn't. I think it's really cool because I didn't really have a hobby.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like, hobby, I feel like is such a strong word, but only because there were people at school who were so much more into books than I was too.
There will always be someone who's
I know.
more into it.
And that's the thing is, like, I would look at them and I'm like, it's not even that bad. Look at them. And so then I would buy the books.
Yeah.
But now look at me.
Look at me now, Mom.
Yeah. Who'd have thought?
Yeah. Oh, funny.
So today I am drinking, this is not an ad. I promise. This is just because I've been a week into this now and I'm really loving it. I've been doing a coffee replacement because I was getting a lot of anxiety, and we've talked about me quitting like caffeine in the past. It's by this company called Rasa, and it's all just like herbs and like crushed up mushrooms and like adaptogens and stuff. And it sounds disgusting, but it actually tastes delicious.
Oh, good.
And I've been drinking this for like a week now, and like my caffeine headaches have already passed. Good. Because I think last Sunday was my last day with coffee.
Right.
Yeah. And so usually like those will last for about 2 or 3 weeks. The last few times that I've tried quitting coffee, successfully quit coffee, but then unsuccessfully hop back on the wagon.
The mushrooms probably help.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. The mushrooms. And then I'm also like just chronically ill things. I'm on my like, I take tinctures and I take little herbal remedies and everything to help with some of my pain and help with some of my like GI issues and everything.
Has that helped with that?
I'm wondering if some of that is helping with it, if it's like all coming together to just like
more rounded.
Yeah.
Just like more clean.
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Less stimulant.
Yes, less like random heart racing while I'm standing in the kitchen.
Yeah. And the anxiety part also adds stress to your cells and all that. Yeah. So it probably helps with that.
It always reminds me of whenever I think about it and whenever I actually get really stressed. Do you remember the opening of The Holiday with when we see God, what's her name? Cameron Diaz. And she's like, women actually age faster. And it's because when we stress, our cells can't replicate. This is just women, by the way, not men. And I always think about like John Krasinski going like, oh, sorry. But as I get older, that scene plays in my head more and more.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
It's become a classic. I watched it this last Christmas. So. And the part when she's driving in the snow, Like, I've never been like a huge, like, I love Kate Winslet. Like, she's like probably one of my favorite. I just think she's beautiful, and I just love her in a lot of ways.
And it's one of those things where it's such an odd cast, but they're all so good in their own right, and they all work so well together
because they all play their like part.
Yeah.
Like, but Cameron Diaz is hilarious, and like I've never been like a huge fan of her, but like that's the only movie where I'm like, oh yeah, there's no one else who could.
Oh God,
do that, you know?
No,
because she plays really exactly the thing she needs to play, which is the rich. But yeah,
that like image of her in that scene too, where she's got the coffee in her hand and she's like pacing and like talking with her hands, like that is just like peak her character.
Yeah. New classic.
Yes. Also, oh shoot, I had another point with The Holiday. I think it was just that I watched it like the first full day that we were back here. My mom put it on because she knows that it's like one of our movies.
Oh, so, cute. Yeah. And it's not Christmas, but you're just like,
yeah, exactly.
That's cute. I love that.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say that it's better than Love Actually.
You know what? I've never seen it.
Okay.
I've tried to watch it.
It is a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've tried to watch it, but it's like so different. And of course this was years ago. So I should try it and get.
There's a lot going on in the movie, and I think that's one of the reasons that I like The Holiday more.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more like there's just these 4 characters that we're focusing on. This is it. They're connected and it's cute. Whereas like Love Actually,
there's like a bunch of different people, right?
It's a bunch of different stories. It feels very much like an old Christmas tale where like we go through the town.
Yeah.
And it's really sweet and cute, but there is a lot going on. And so that's why I think I like The Holiday a little bit more.
Yeah.
Iris's monologue when she's talking to Jack Black's character, when she's talking about like why she can't get over the douchebag, like that changed my life as a teenager.
Yeah,
that was a beautiful little monologue for little teenage Melissa.
Yeah,
but I feel like as I get older, I'm more and more like Cameron Diaz's character.
Yeah,
who's like, let's work all the time, stress, and then not trust anyone.
Yeah. Get like the reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like Jack Black's character too. I think for obvious reasons is because like I like that he's like a score writer because I love scores.
Yeah.
And then like I mean obviously I'm like a huge fan of like Tenacious D and stuff, and I think he's like super talented, and so like when he's directing like how to do it, like he's just so animated. It's fun.
Yeah.
And obviously like he's just like the funny, which Milo's like really funny, and he's also really musical.
Yeah.
And Milo's like, Milo works at School of Rock right now, so he's like I know I look like Jack Black, like everyone says, oh, Jack Black, you know. He's like, I know, because he has like messy curly hair, and he's like a little heavier, and he's so cute. So it's like
he's got like the humor down.
Yeah, he's like he's like the funny guy, and then he's also like the theatrical like musician. So
well, I think that's one of the reasons that like Jack Black works so well in the movie too, because he's not like a traditional rom-com love interest. So because they both kind of like needed something different. Like Iris needed somebody who could help her breathe. And Cameron Diaz's character, I can't remember her name, needed somebody who was like not scared of her power, like her professional power. Yeah. Because Jude Law's character is just like, he's a professional, a very strong professional in his own right. And he joked when she was
he's
like,
a simp.
he is 100% a simp. Like she needed that. She needed somebody who wasn't like offended by her
but that honored it.
But that honored it. Yeah. 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 Because I love that scene when they're like trying to see if they can make it work. And he doesn't try to say like, leave LA and come here. He's trying to see like, how do you travel for work? He doesn't want to get in the way of her job. Yeah. He wants it to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What are we reading today, Melissa? Or discussing.
I've just gotten used to it at this point.
I know, we're reading it okay.
Yeah, we are talking about King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. It has all of the sex that we were expecting to get in other books this season. Every sex scene that we typically talk about has, instead of being talked about through an entire season, been condensed into one episode.
Yes.
And that's okay.
This is our trashy sex talk episode where we talk 100%. About King of Battle and Blood.
Yes. Where we talk about trashy sex.
Yes. Yep. Oh. You have converted me. I understand now. I understand because you were vampires. Because you were talking about vampire. I think it was like our fantasy creatures episode. And you were talking about what you love about vampires, which is like kind of like the vampires have like that kind of traditional like lamenting your absence kind of thing.
But like sad romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to understand because I'm also like listening to Twilight. And now I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, like they can hear voices, or they can hear voices. They can hear like your thoughts. And they kind of always know where you are, I think. There's this,
so, yes,
there's this,
no.
Yeah. There's this like sense of, you had talked about like vampires' powers originate out of like needing to coerce or like maybe not coerce, but like a manipulate predatory yes to humans, and there's something sexy about it. So
there is okay I have a lot of thoughts about this real quick. So the like hearing thoughts and the knowing where they are, so the hearing thoughts seems to be something that we just like the main love interest to have the power of.
Yeah,
but generally I think it's kind of like whatever abilities this vampire kind of has is what is kind of like, so like Soren can turn into a falcon. And I think the knowing where you are thing is very much like, you know how a shark can smell like a drop of blood within a quarter mile? It's kind of like that.
Right.
So it's definitely predatory, but it's also kind of like he's not looking for other mortals.
Yeah, but like he still has choice.
Yeah.
And he even in the at some point is like, I'm isn't reading her thoughts and is like trying to give her privacy and states that. So yeah, so it's not like, so he has the abilities and then is able to rein them back. And Reese has that too, right? Like she doesn't want him to like, I mean, anyway,
she kind of erects those walls.
He has compulsion, but he chooses not to, right? And that makes him so good. So
yeah,
that's how you fall in love with them.
Yeah,
with Adrian. So first of all, this is our first blonde.
I think so.
I think
Nikolai from Rule of Wolves.
He did have blonde.
That was less like rom-com, like romance, and that was like So our first like full romance with a blonde.
Yeah, which I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but then I kept turning the page, and I was like, okay,
yeah.
Because usually sometimes if they're like not exactly how I want them to look, I'll like kind of imagine them how I want them to look. But it still didn't work. Like I was still like seeing kind of your type, which is like kind of a tall, like,
because it was so much skinny
and like muscly, but not like big. And then like towering, but it's the it's the daddy. It's like the control, like he knows how to like take control.
Yeah.
And you're just like you just know he knows what to do. Yeah. Okay,
before we completely go like off the rails, just complete deranged, one thing I did like, particularly because like I love to look at the way that authors use the vampire figure differently, and I feel like she really grasped that like sexual element of Dracula. So there is a lot of like Eastern European names and little like words and everything. So I do think she, like St. Clair, almost certainly read Dracula or like some derivatives or some stuff on it to write this. So one thing, a couple of things that were in like Dracula, and then also in like Carmilla, and I want to say, who was the guy who was with them and that was like with Shelley when she wrote Frankenstein? Polidori. Polidori wrote a vampire story, which was actually based on Byron. Fun fact. And so there's this kind of like some of the recurring things that'll happen is like dreams will be an element, like dreaming of them. In Dracula, he saw Mina and believed her to be his reincarnated lover.
Okay.
Which obviously fits here. The shape-shifting, also a thing. And so I do like that she's already kind of presented this as like, they don't just turn into bats. They can kind of turn into whatever. So when he said there's like 30 flying people, we can assume that all 30 of them have their own variation of what they turn into. Because it was like first presented as a falcon. So it's already some variation from like the traditional, or like what we come to see as the traditional like bat transformation. But then those elements of like, part of the reason that we found Dracula hot is because he's pursuing Mina because he sees her as his like reincarnated lover. That's hot. I can't explain why. I can't put the words to it. That is like end of sentence. It just is hot. And so I like that those elements were incorporated, and it wasn't just that like, because sometimes it'll be like vampires' bites draw the pleasure, and it's like that's why they're having such great sex, but it was so much of the heavy-handed aggressive like pleasure in the book came before she even considered biting, letting him take from her. So it wasn't just that like it's hot because because of like blood play. It's like, no, it's hot because he's a hot person.
It's not, and it's not necessarily like, what I like about it is that he's not hot because he's a vampire, but he's hot and happens to be a vampire. So he's able to then use those like aspects, and it only adds to it. You know what I mean? So like his substance is like enough, which I like.
And I think that really draws back to like older stuff, because the older stuff we don't necessarily find out about the blood. I mean, we know now because like they're classics and we read them for those reasons, but they don't incorporate that into the story until well later, after like you're kind of falling in love with the characters, which I don't think was the intent, but is the way that it's read now. So so I really like that.
Like, what was it, page 6? It's like the first,
and she's like masturbating.
It was really hot. I was like, oh my god, what are we? I was like, I don't think we've read anything like this on the podcast. No. Not to this degree. And you know, like Crescent City was pretty graphic. Probably one of our more graphic. I would say
there was less sex, but the sex was graphic.
And from Blood and Ash. And Shadow in the Ember. Armentrout and Moss. And then this one was like there's the word clit, which I've never seen in a book. All the time. Which I appreciated.
Because I prefer like that over like
the apex of the thighs.
Yes.
Where? There's many areas in the apex of the thighs.
That is a very long region.
There is a very specific spot I think you're trying to refer to.
Well, the funny thing too, so I've read like A Touch of Darkness, so I knew going into this that St. Clair
would deliver
explicit, and yes, she would deliver. I did not expect it to be to this degree.
Yeah.
This was intense.
And I was excited because, yeah, I was kind of expecting it to be kind of like A Touch of Darkness. But this is such, like, her writing has improved so much. Like, even like the plot was really just like
the world building too.
Yeah. Like, I was thoroughly impressed. And I'm very excited for like the next book. I'm also excited for any series she continues to write, because this girl knows how to write sex.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I was like, Milo, I'm gonna give you this book. I was like, you're gonna be an educated boy.
My mom actually, any sentence that I follow that up with, starting with my mom, we know it's gonna go great.
Yeah.
I was about like 4 chapters in and I was like, I think you're gonna have to read this book.
Yeah.
And so she read the back and she's like, oh cool, maybe I can just read your copy. And I was like, no, you don't want to see my notes. But you should read it. Just don't read my copy, please.
Yeah. Get it on a Kindle.
Yeah. Okay, so the comment on the world building. I love A Touch of Darkness because I like that she kind of makes it a modern, like, rehistory kind of thing. But I can also see how that would be for like your first kind of big published series. That would be easier
because people already kind of know the
you don't have to reintroduce a bunch of, like, we know what like
and stuff
phones are. We know, like, if you've set it in a modern space, you don't have to build some of those things up.
And like, it was already established characters like Zeus and like,
exactly. So like things like that, where it's like we don't have to necessarily, like, when it comes to the kind of medievalism in this book, there's so much of this kind of style of fantasy going around now that you also don't have to
explain too much.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when things are kind of like in ancient Greece, it's like, okay, but like, what is that?
What kind of ancient Greece are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
What version?
And like, when you say an atrium, are we talking like it's built out of stone, or it's built out of like I don't know, what are brick or wood, or like what age are we talking about here? So I like that she made it modern in A Touch of Darkness. It made that a lot easier, especially as a reader. But like, it's just totally new with this, like, every aspect. It's so good.
Okay, so characters. There's Dad and Killian.
Fuck him.
Fuck them both.
Yes.
Yeah. I really liked the way she kind of, okay, so Isolde, what's her name? Isolde's characterization is really good.
Oh yeah, I love
because you don't need a lot of backstory to know like what is okay and not okay for her. She makes that very clear. And it also, okay, so if you like grow up in that like castle with Dad and Killian, where everyone doesn't listen to you, and your only purpose is to like be queen and marry the commander or whatever, and you don't get like invited to like council meetings and stuff, like you're just a woman, like, you would expect to get more of a Poppy character, maybe not that extreme, but like something like that. And what I liked was that we had a character that we really enjoyed, that was like also like, I don't agree with this, even though something was I felt like was like a little off. Like, I was like, I don't know, like, would she be like that? However, it explains it at the end. And I'm like, that makes more sense. It was so brilliant because it was like setting this like tiny little seed of like, well, yeah, she's like, she's afraid of fire. She has this kind of like mind of her, like the soul of her own.
Yeah, well, it's like definitely a mind of her own, because if she grew up in this like place and she talks about like all of their kind of manners and like cultural rules that she doesn't like to follow. And I hadn't really thought about that as being like part of Yesenia in her.
Yeah.
But that does make sense. I think at the time I was just thinking about like she's a rich princess and she likes to do what she does.
Yeah.
And so like it made sense in that I kept thinking, imagine how much worse she would be if they weren't trying to do all of this.
Yeah.
If they weren't kind of trying to restrain her, if she just had like free will.
Right.
More free will, but yeah. So yeah, I like the way that it built up too.
Yeah, because it was like kind of like almost like it was one of those moments when you're like, I don't know, I think it could be this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like confirmed, and then you feel really good about yourself.
I've got like in my notes, I've got a full section where I was just like, here's the theory. And then every time I saw something that might have proven it,
yeah,
I was like, page number, quote.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I'm going to be honest, from the very first meeting between them in the like forest, I had a feeling that it was a reincarnation situation.
Right. And you had that kind of knowledge about vampires, so you knew that could be a possibility.
And plus like
so I wasn't at that point. I wasn't there yet.
No, that's fair. The amount of YA that I've read where it's like reincarnation, and it always starts with a like some kind of like I've been looking for you or some shit like that, like in Howl's Moving Castle, which isn't necessarily reincarnation, but she visits him in the past. And so then when you get that little like full circle at the very beginning when he's like, I've been looking everywhere for you.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on that movie either.
Oh no. So good.
But yeah, I think it was probably really explicit around page like 150.
When was that? I don't know.
So that was kind of like, no, you're good. Right, I mean, like that's just like a general, it's not an actual page. I don't think I've got a quote from there. But Isolde starts to say the stuff like, I felt as if I've been here before. She talks about like the tiara feels like it was meant for her head. It felt like it was meant to go there. There's a part when she's laying with, or when her and Adrian are having relations, and she talks about like the way that he's holding her, and I think it's afterwards, like the way that he's touching her and like holding her afterwards feels like second nature. It feels like he's done this all before. And so all of those little things. So beforehand it was just the like he made the weird comments like, you know, I just saw you and I thought I wanted a wife suddenly. Or Anna, who was like, you're the only one who could have done this. Wait, hold on. That was page 196. Anna said that to her.
Yeah.
But she kind of like makes similar comments from the moment they meet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For me, it confirmed it, I think, when she saw the portrait of the witches. It came full circle for me, because I knew that something was going on, obviously, because Adrian is like all of a sudden very interested in her and not really for political reasons.
Yep.
So obviously there was something there going on.
Yeah.
But you know, it could have been an incarnation, but we didn't know who. And then we started talking, she started doing research, like Lothian became like her little buddy, and like Adrian was like, oh yeah, I like Lothian, like, so I think it was like they were just kind of trying to nudge her, and then to like do research on the witches. And then when I learned about the burning, I was like, okay, that's why she's afraid of fire. She's definitely a witch. and then when I learned that the witches weren't bad, like not all of them, because you know, she has to kind of unlearn that everyone's who has magic is bad. So
there was also the moment when we like confirmed that Adrian had lived during the burning, and I was like, that seems suspicious. It feels like, did you ever see Haunted Mansion, the one with
no
Eddie Murphy? So the whole premise of the movie is that they're going to this like old haunted mansion, I think to try to sell it or buy it. I don't know. But they get there and the owner of the house takes a special interest in his wife. And from the very moment, it's not like a creepy way either. Like he looks at her like he loves her from the moment they meet. And so throughout the movie, we come to find out that like his wife had died way back in like the 17 or 1800s, and she looks exactly like his wife, and they had been looking, and actually the reason that his wife died was because his butler was a bitch. But it had those vibes for me where it's like, as the movie's going, we're getting these little like inklings as to what's actually going on, and they're finding evidence of like, wow, that lady looks like mom. Wow, this is a wedding dress in the chest of the lady who looks like mom.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? So it felt like that, where it's like, if you like, when you rewatch it, you're like, oh, I see it. It's so obvious.
Yeah. So when I reread this, I'll be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Like thinking back to some of the stuff too, is just, even me, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Particularly with her dad.
Yeah.
Like, I did not expect him to try to kill her.
God, yeah.
But thinking about the way that like he very willingly was just gonna offer her up to Killian. And then, well, the whole like birth control thing was a huge red flag.
Yeah.
But all of those things on their own wouldn't have led me to believe he was gonna kill her. Or at least try to.
I know. I would have thought that I'm trying to remember what his motives were.
So they had like bonded because she had let him drink from her. And so if she died, he died.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Okay. It might have made, I was kind of wondering, like, maybe he knows that she's Yesenia.
I know. I was like, I'm him and Killian, I feel like know more than they're letting on. At the very most, or at the very least, Killian, because I don't know, he had like a weird change of heart there at the end.
Right.
Like, I would have expected him to try to kill her and her dad to protect Anna.
Yeah.
And so that, like, even when she was like, go save yourself, protect Anna, and he just ran, my note is like, he fucking knows something.
Yeah. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
For next book.
Yeah, especially, okay, so we've got a few red herrings as to traitors.
Yeah.
And I guess red herrings is like a few suspects, I should say. Who is your
the daughter that she saves?
Okay. Vesna?
Yeah. What's the other one?
Violetta is the other one.
Violetta. I don't know.
Her two ladies in wait.
That's the one that Adrian chose.
Yeah. The one who was there to help.
Possibly one of them.
Okay.
I feel like Vesna, we know more about like her history. So maybe it's like some kind of like trick or something. And obviously not Soren.
Oh, he's one of my suspects.
Damn. I liked
him
Soren.
and Anna are my suspects.
Yeah.
So when she was poisoned, Anna and Derek were up on the dais with them. And so either they were down on the dance floor and the poisoner got past them, because we never actually confirmed that what's his name was the poisoner when it came time to like confront everybody 3 days later. He just died and then everybody was let out.
Yeah.
But then also Soren, it was his job to go find her, right? What if he did? And I'm not saying he's like traitor willingly.
Maybe he's spelled.
Yeah, maybe he got caught. But also with Anna, how does she know magic if they don't have spell books?
Yeah.
And maybe they do have spell books somewhere and we just don't have the old ones. Like, I mean, magic is passed down from mother to daughter. So it's possible that like
families
have some magic. But it was rather suspicious after we were told that there wasn't really any stuff left, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Who knows?
I know.
We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah.
When does it come out? The next one? Is that the one in December?
6th. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we don't have to wait that long.
Not that long. It's going to go by really fast.
Yeah, it will.
Okay, sex.
Okay.
What was your favorite one?
I can't even tell them apart anymore.
I can't either. That's so funny.
Sex. So much sex. Okay. I liked the sex that they had after Sapphira
mm-hmm.
tried to like drive a wedge in between them again right before he like sent her to the dungeons.
Oh yeah.
Mostly because the apology itself actually left me a little wanting more. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wanted him to grovel a little bit more before he like sent her off to the dungeon and like to her punishment and everything. But they had really good sex afterwards because it was also their first like time coming together after she had been like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
And that was sad.
Yeah. I can't remember what point it was, but I can remember what happened. It might be the same.
Okay, that's fair.
One.
Yeah.
But when he's sitting down, I don't know. There's a couple times when he's sitting down. I know. It is hard because they really do blend together.
Yeah. Because there was just like, it was like after and before every major event.
Yeah. Yeah. Some highlights. I loved the this is the one I bookmarked because it was the easiest. It was the one I had to take a long break afterwards. Was the one was the one, oh Sparrow, no one who fucks like you is a saint. And then he like fills her up. And then he's like, sing for me, Sparrow. And then she's like, I sang for him. I cried for him. I screamed for him. And I was like, oh yeah. But I love the
So real quick, I've got like my marked up book, right? Every red tab is sex or like a sex adjacent scene.
Uh-huh.
Do you want me to count these real quick?
Yes.
Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder we can't
they're about every 20 pages.
Yeah, because usually in a book we're like, oh, that scene. Like because it's one of 4.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like the one at the beginning, one in Act 2,
yeah,
one at the end of Act 2, and then one in Act 3. Like that's it. This is like, yeah. The stretch when they weren't having sex is probably the longest.
Yeah.
And so I did mark like when they had sex in dreams or masturbation.
Yeah. Or there's that time in the tent.
Yeah. Everything where they got like into each other in one way or another, figuratively or like literally, I marked.
Yeah.
So 16.
Yeah. Okay, so what, like, I'm trying to remember like what happens. I just remember like
bodies coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was that one point when they're on the chair. This is, I think, the one I'm trying to
because there's, I think,
explain.
Everyone where they're on the chair ends with them on a bed.
Yeah. So they're on the chair, and there's something where she's not allowed to like, no, it was like, I think she was like on him, but like wasn't. And then he loses control and he like flips her over. And so
is it one of the times when like,
and so then he's like ramming in the back from behind, and then she's just like wailing.
grabbing the
and then he
headboard.
was like, did I hurt you kind of thing? Like there's that one.
The did I hurt you starts in the time when she's like, get out, when she realizes that she has feelings.
This was before feelings, I think, because it was I feel like it was kind of early on, but
I don't think he asks about having hurt her early on. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
because I remember reading it and I was like, that's strange, because I feel like it was supposed to indicate how much her like body language and everything had changed in that moment.
And he goes down on her a lot.
Oh, all the fucking time.
I love that.
All the time. I think the headboard one is when they reconcile.
Yeah.
Because she's so angry. And that's why it's so like yeah.
I like this is the first book we've read or I've read where right off the bat they're like full in. You know what I mean? There's no same. Like tentative like getting to know each other, and there's obvious reasons for that plot wise. And so that was really fun and refreshing to just go like balls in like right off the bat, where like they're doing like crazy like dom sub stuff almost.
Well, I also like I like that it is part of the plot, because sometimes, not that I've ever read one that's this intense, but like when they go from the very beginning, and it's, I guess, like even without the sex, when you get like fantasy romance and they're just like head over heels and they're like violently jealous and super possessive and all of that stuff, without that sense of like, actually it's because you're the reincarnation of his lost love.
Yeah.
It's just like normal, like they are not reincarnations, they are not soulmates, he's just possessive. I'm like, okay, that's a red flag.
Yeah,
that's not a good person.
Yeah.
And so I think it's nicer that it's part of the plot like that, and that it's kind of like the seeds are laid from the very beginning that it is that way, and that it's not just like
exactly that he's like, he's not creepy at the beginning. It's like a new trope. It's like when you're like more sexually in sync than otherwise, whereas like I feel like part of the YA influence has been very much like, make sure you trust him first and all of this, you know, whereas
no, I don't,
she doesn't
she doesn't
really have a choice.
That's the problem, is I don't think a lot of YA had that kind of stuff. I think YA was very much more like, look at how just intense they are for each other and they don't know each other, and
well, I mean, like new girls, YA, I feel like there's like that responsibility now. To like, that's kind of what I've read on. I haven't read a lot of YA like recently, but that's like what I read about it like recently. And so I feel like this is definitely like adult romance. So who cares?
It's casual sex at first. Exactly. Because we don't have to have that responsibility when it's for adults.
And Sarah and Nyktos kind of had that. You know, like Castile and Poppy were very much like slow. She needed slow burn. She needed the teenage sexual experiences, and then Sarah and Nyktos were very much like, let's bang.
They're like, wow, we both have such hot bodies. It'd be a crime not to bring them together.
Before something happens, before the world ends.
The sex. Like, you know?
Like this this is good.
I just don't even like,
I know.
I think one reason that it's so easy to like her from the beginning is because at the very beginning, she's actually talking about how bad of a lover Killian is. And then we meet him and you're like, oh, that makes sense. I get it. And I think that is like a huge reason that we also like understand her. because I was surprised to find out as it was going on that she actually lives in a rather conservative place.
Yeah. Yeah, for her to have these like these boundaries.
Yes, and
yeah,
those like, what's the word? Like an acknowledgement of her own wants and needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not confused about anything except like when she starts to feel things for Adrian, but she knows what she wants. She wants to be queen.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to have good sex. She wants to be respected as a ruler. She doesn't.
And she wants to keep her people safe.
Yes, and she wants to keep her people safe. And it's not one of those things where it's like in Joseph Campbell, one of the part of the hero's journey is rejecting their mission, rejecting their fate. She does not do that. I guess like you could argue rejecting or like not accepting Adrian. Yeah, not accepting her feelings for Adrian could be part of that, but even
that
then,
was more destiny.
Yeah, that wasn't so much like her mission as a hero as it is just her own identity a little bit.
It's an identity thing.
Yeah, she has a bit of an identity crisis. Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about Adrian a little bit. Because there was some moments when I almost cried and I was just like, my heart broke for him.
Yeah.
Because you start to get it. Well, after I saw the portrait and realized who she was, I realized there was something more going on before she did. And I bookmarked it. Oh. It's so sad.
Oh, God.
It's that part. There's kind of that back and forth they have at the end of the book about like what they're fighting for and like what they're kind of doing. They want to kind of do, because she's confused at like, why haven't you gone to like save my people? Things like that. And she's kind of trying to explore like what his motives are as a ruler.
Yeah.
When he takes her to the tower up on the ledge. And there's that moment when she's like, but I trust him not to. And I'll just read it real quick. Adrian, I said, and tugged on his hand, guiding him away from the ledge. Inside, the stairwell was just as dark, and before we could descend, he stopped me and pinned me against the wall. So you think it's going to get sexy?
Yep.
And then I guess for a moment, I wasn't sure what he intended to do, but then he rested his forehead against mine. I miss you, he whispered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. Because you know what kind. You know that's not like, he just wants to fuck her or something. He like misses,
because they've already
misses her knowledge of who he is.
Yeah.
This is like her love for him.
Because like they've already come back together after she was like, leave me alone. And so it's not him being like, why are you pushing this distance between us?
Yeah.
Like we've already passed that.
Yeah.
And so it has to be something else.
Yeah, it's definitely something else. And then it builds. Give me a minute here. I need to figure out what the context is because it's good. Someone attempted to kill her.
Yes. Which time?
It's at the end. After they went hunting.
Okay.
And was it Rebecca?
Ravenna.
And then I think someone, I don't remember. I'm sorry. Hold on. Give me a minute here.
You're talking about Noblesse Zero, who came and he like had the mist or whatever.
Maybe.
Because like Ravenna like disappears and it's him standing there.
Oh no, this is when he locks everyone in.
Oh, the poisoning.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Sorry. It was a lot later than I thought. I thought that was earlier. like Anatoly. That's like a Russian name. I love that they have like these Eastern. Anatoly scowled. Is this woman not irreplaceable? Is she worth losing alliances? She is only a woman after all. There are hundreds at your beck and call. I expected Adrian to speak, to give some verbal indication that his noblesse had offended him, but instead, Adrian's blade cut through the air and Anatoly's head slipped from his neck and landed at his feet. As the screams of his daughter echoed in the hall. His strikes were hard, but no match for Adrian's as their blades clashed. Lady Bella continued to, before the vampire joined Anatoly on the floor, Lady Bella continued to scream. Clean this up, Adrian snapped. A warning for you all before these doors open. You are here by my grace, by my mercy. I can unmake you all. I loved that. Then she says, as his final words fell from his lips, he met my gaze and I saw the promise in his eyes. It was then I realized how wrong I'd been about Adrian. He was a god. So that was
because there's that line early on too where he said goddesses are just humans with power.
Yes. I loved that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things he said I loved.
Well, it also made me think that like she might have been a god. And
oh no, hold on. You cut out a little bit. Repeat that. Sorry.
Okay. It made me think there was like that line at the beginning made me think that she might have been a goddess instead of well, not instead of anything. That was like one of my first theories, with that she was a goddess reincarnated, and that like the story of him and Dis had been kind of warped with time.
Yeah.
To like fit people's needs and everything, like history, winners, whatever. But my favorite scene where he defends her is when he gouges that guy's eye out at the meeting.
Oh yeah, that was like good. I really wanted them, like everyone to leave and then him just have his way with her on the table.
I thought that's what they were gonna do.
I was like, I mean, anything can happen like that in this book. Like,
yeah.
And I was surprised that it didn't. Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I liked that.
Especially after
because he just like, no like reflex, you know, it was just a reflex. He just went straight for it.
Yep.
He reminded me of a couple of people we know. There was some Castile vibes.
Yes. Because I was gonna say it would be just like when they fucked over the ashes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nyctos vibes. I think. Oh, I can't wait for that to come out. It's a Castile Nyctos kind of vibe.
Thimping energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like that in the whole exchange, accuse him of saying it in front of everybody, because he just wants the guy to know that he heard. And he doesn't need to, because if he says it in front of everybody, he also embarrasses her.
Yeah. Yes. And and there's that moment when she was like worried that he was going to say, because like actually it was, maybe it's just a different moment, but there was a moment when her dad and Killian were there. It was at like the last party in the burning rites or whatever. And Killian like finds them like fucking or whatever. And
that's the morning that her dad gets there, because she's in the garden because she had just confronted him about like, did you know that they were all slaves? And he's like, they're not your people.
Yeah.
Red flag number like 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad dad.
Yep.
Yeah, and Killian makes a comment about like, why would you like, you know, embarrass whatever, like make a scene, like whatever. And I can't remember the words for it. And she has a thought of like, oh no, she's worried that Adrian will say, because she's like not a saint and loves to be like fucked like this. But he doesn't, and so there's like that trust kind of being built, you know.
Yeah He wants to,
because he says that to someone else.
He says it to his people.
I
think she was like his like little posse, his like 4 people group. And So there's like, he's got that, like, he's constantly conscientious of the fact that what will gain her respect in his own court will not gain her respect in other courts.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely top 3 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's Castile, Azriel. Yeah.
And him.
Yeah.
Adrian. I think he kicked Nyktos out.
No.
For me.
No.
Yeah. Mostly because, like, I like guys with experience.
Yeah.
If we look at those 3 guys, it's very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why Nyktos and Reed are yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Nyktos and Reed and Reese. Reese has experience.
If I had to rate this, like, spice level out of 5 stars, a solid 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a 6, a 7.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, if there could be a sex scene, there was.
Yep.
She didn't hold back, and I appreciate that so much.
Same.
That's what we signed up for. She delivered.
Exactly. Yep.
Scarlett.
We bow to her.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. All right. And next week, what are we reading?
Next week, we are staying on the vampire train, although taking a bit of a left turn. And we are going to be talking about Twilight.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm about halfway through.
Yep. Do not expect any sex ever in the entire series.
Well, there's vampires, so there's a level of sex.
Like, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I've already kind of found it.
There's the sexual tension of, like, Christians who are too scared to even hold hands, kind of like
sex. And I'm very familiar with that. So
yeah.
Like, so I can get behind it.
It's like one step away from the Christians who only do blowjobs and anal, so that they technically aren't, like, breaking the code.
I know. Law of sex is only reproduction. Yeah.
Yep. It's not sex that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Been there. Yeah. Okay.
I am excited for next week.
Yes. Okay. All right. Until is there any any last announcements?
Yes. So 1, we send out a monthly newsletter.
Yes.
All updates, and we're kind of stepping it up a little bit. So join our email subscription, our email list. And when you do, you get a discount for 10% off in our shop, which we are, if you go onto our website, you can also access, and we are regularly updating that. So check that out as well.
Yeah. We're always coming out with, like, new collections and stuff. So
new little, like, stickers and shirts and everything. If there's a specific product you want, let us know.
Yeah.
Because
always reply to the email with any suggestions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Or do, like, our contact page on our website, or join our Discord, because we've got a book club there also, but you can join the Discord, and we've got a little channel in there for suggestions as well.
Yes.
Also, we are partnered with Noble Objects, one of our favorite candle companies. I'm still amazed at how amazing they smell. I had one around me the other day while I was bathing. That was a beautiful experience. Yes.
I know. I do that thing where I keep them and I don't light them because I don't want them to go away.
Yeah.
So I've only lit them once, and that was when I was, like, recording the reel.
Yep.
So, but I'm like, oh, that's nice. That smells really good. I should light these more.
We could just keep smelling them manually, like, instead of lighting them.
Yeah. Just be like, okay.
Just hold it with one hand.
I feel better now.
And write with the other hand. Yeah. But if you go to the link in our bio or use code INBED10 on their website, then you get 10% off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm excited too, because honestly, I don't know what I'm worried about, because you just burn them down and then you can use them as, like, little pencil holders and stuff.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't use it as, like, a cup, because the front might like fade.
I don't want to have to wash that.
Yeah, you don't want to have to wash it. So
what's that new like TikTok audio that's like another box for my trinkets? That's what candles are.
Yeah. Trinkets, odds and ends, that sort of thing.
Yep. So that is our spiel for the end of the episode.
Yes. Okay, until next week, happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.